when we make the decision to move forward, whether we feel ready or not, God shows up in that, right? And
Exactly.
so one of the things I like to think about is when you start something, think about when you go to a new job. You feel less confident. You don't know where the
Mhm.
bathroom is. You don't know where
Yeah.
the coffee pot is. You don't know anything.
Mhm.
And then fast
Mhm.
forward a year and a half later, you're giving tours of the building. And it's the
Mhm.
same thing when
Right.
we show up in
Mhm.
entrepreneurship. Today, we may not feel confident with how to make a YouTube post. A year from
Mhm.
now, when all of the YouTube views are coming in, we might be teaching somebody who's just starting on the path how to use YouTube. And that goes for every single thing that we try. I will tell you,
Mhm.
a year and a half ago, I paid people thousands. I'm kind of ashamed to even admit it, but I'm
Mhm.
not the only person who's done this. Thousands, and I mean tens of thousands of dollars
Mhm.
so that I could shortcut this, so I could skip some steps, so I
Mhm.
could have a business in a box, you know? I
Mhm.
remember I was watching a YouTube video and I saw this woman and she said, "I'm a God girl." And I was like, "Whoo, I need her. I'm a God girl too." And I just jumped on it. And then I saw this other one that said, "We'll do everything for you." And I jumped on that one. And then I saw another one who's everybody's been leading you astray. I got you. And I jumped on that one. You know what I've come to realize after jumping on so many different programs? I
Mhm.
100% believe that you have to have coaching, you have to have
Mhm.
guidance, you have to have somebody there with you, whether it's an accountability partner, a mentor, a coach, a guide, whatever. What you have to do is decipher if someone is manipulating or actually serving. And I think
Mhm.
that's what I have realized.
Mhm.
Here's the
Mhm.
deal: the people who are actually genuinely being authentic and who are giving of themselves, they don't manipulate. You get everything that you need because they're giving from a generous heart. I'll happily pay for your program if I think that you are providing value. And that's what we have to do.
Mhm.
We have to show up and we have to provide value. And this is why I have a free community. And this is why I have a paid cohort, because in my free community, I give myself away. I'm available.
Mhm.
I'm talking to you. But if you need more support, then I have a paid offer where it's much more done with you and it's much more guidance and handholding. One of the things I want to say is, as Christians, we cannot be afraid to ask for the sale. We cannot be afraid to provide that service because the Bible tells us that a workman is worthy of her wage. And so
Mhm.
we can't be afraid to ask for it because we're offering something of value. And
Mhm.
because you are providing a service, God has made it so that you get compensated for your service. Now, I will say, don't sell shoddy stuff. Don't try to
Mhm.
make a lot of money off of people and not deliver.
Mhm.
We want to
Mhm.
be authentic. We want to have integrity. We want to show up with value. And if we do that, then yes, price your product appropriately and don't
Mhm.
be afraid to ask for it. You know, it's so
Mhm.
interesting when you are doing that sales call and you're going through that process where you're trying to determine if this is a good fit and whether or not this person should join your program. And you go through all of that stuff and you get to the very end where you have to ask for the business or you have to tell the
Mhm.
price. A lot
Mhm.
of times we, especially as Christian women entrepreneurs, stumble over that. But here's what I found: if you approach that whole thing not as a sales call, but more as, I want to just get to know this person. I want to know how I can help that
Mhm.
person. Then you just have a real conversation. You really get to know someone. You really get to understand what their problem is. And then at the end, you show them how you can support them and you leave it at that. Nine times out of 10, if you figured out the person's problem and you shown them, their very next question is, well, how much does it
That's
cost?
the conversation.
Or when can we get started? Or how do I work
Mhm.
with you? It isn't so much about us showing up and wanting to close that sale. I remember when I
Mhm.
was in corporate America, I was a salesperson and you had to make quota. And I was the lead on the Internal Revenue Service account. and I never thought about making quota. I never did. I only thought about how I might help my clients solve their problems. And whenever
Mhm.
I did that, I made quota over and over again. Whenever I thought about the client first, quota was
Mhm.
never an issue. And so I think it's the same thing here. If
Mhm.
we're putting our clients first, and if we are focusing on fulfilling their needs and not so concerned about how we're going to get paid, then God works it all out. And I'm not saying we should be complacent. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is it is our job to plant the seed, it is God's job to provide the harvest. And so
Yes.
when we go into those sales calls, that's what we need to be thinking about.
Mhm. I agree wholeheartedly. I agree. It's just what the Bible says. You sow sparingly, you reap sparingly. You sow
That's right.
bountifully, you reap bountifully. So that's my philosophy with my school as well. I'm giving it all. I'm just sharing everything that I'm learning. I'm trying to pass it on. 'Cause it's not just meant for me, it's meant for me to share. So that's exactly, I'm following the same regimen as you. I'm giving as much as I can give and then selling or collecting what I can for my services.
Amen.
I get
You
it.
know, it's interesting. Sometimes people hesitate to give away something for free.
Mhm.
My philosophy on that is if God poured it into me freely, then I can
Mhm.
give it freely. You know why? Because God
Mhm.
has so much more to give. So if I give all I have away, then when it comes time to charge, God is going to give me even higher level stuff that
Mhm.
I can offer to my community. And
Mhm.
so I have no issue with telling you everything that I know and everything that I've experienced. God allowed me to walk this path ahead of you and ahead of a lot of other women who are going to be coming into this community because He wanted me to be able to be a guide. And that's one of the reasons I call myself the Purpose Guide, because I am a guide for people who need to get from their purpose all the way along the client path to getting referrals. And so, as more and more women come into this community, they can expect to meet women like you and me who want to just give freely. Because the more we give, we know the more God is going to give back onto us. And I'm just so excited about what I'm seeing here and the vibrancy that's happening, and the chat is blowing up, and the back and forth is happening, and we're having these conversations, these real conversations about what it really takes to be an entrepreneur and to keep going and not give up.
I am too. I'm so excited. Just the idea of where God is taking me is so exciting. I'm not even afraid anymore. I'm just so excited. I used to be afraid of what could, now all I can see is just a bright light.
I
I
love
just
that.
love it.
And the more that we engage with each other, it feels a little easier. We might
It
not see
does.
the light at the end of the tunnel
Hmm.
yet, but it
Hmm.
does feel a little easier because being an entrepreneur is so lonely.
Hmm.
Especially a
Hmm.
solopreneur, we may or may not have a VA or an intern or a crew.
Hmm.
And when you're doing this by yourself, it can get lonely. But to
Hmm.
show up in these
Yeah.
sessions, to show up in the chat, to engage
Hmm.
with each other.
I love it.
And you're in
Hmm.
Chicago and I'm in Maryland, and we don't need to be sitting in the same room to be
Hmm.
effective and to support each other. So
Hmm.
I love that.